Hey, Crystal here from Elite Hair Care USA. So in this video, I am going to show you how to make your own clip-in extensions. So we're going to just go ahead and get started with the things that you'll need. You'll definitely need a marker, preferably a Sharpie marker. If you have this marker in a silver or a gold, that would be great because the silver or gold shows better on any weft that you'll be marking rather than the dark color. But for today, I am using the dark color marker. You'll also need a pair of good sharp scissors. You will need your needle. So your needle can be curved or it can be straight. I preferably like the curved needle, but some people prefer to sew with the straight needle. Either or doesn't matter, but it does need to be a weaving needle, okay? You'll also need your thread. Now you can use the typical weaving thread, which is the cottony kind of thread, or you can do what they have called a nylon thread, where it is more like a fish line. It is also that kind of thread where it doesn't tangle as much. But for today, I'm going to actually show you using the basic thread, which is the weaving thread, okay? You will also need your extensions. So whatever hair you're going to be using for your clip-ins. Now, clip-ins are very different. When it comes onto the hair has to match whatever texture that you are doing it for a client. If you are trying to do like a commercial-based setting of clip-ins, then you can choose whatever quality hair you like. You can choose whatever brand hair you like. And then clip-ins are also, typically they are custom, so they are based on the size of your client's head. So you want to keep that in mind. I will also go over how you take the measurements or what measurements you need in order for you to be able to make the clip-ins on your client. Let's say your client is not available to you in the actual salon. I will tell you what measurements you need for you to be able to successfully create your clip-ins. And then last but not least, which is the second most important part, is the actual clips. So there are several different clips out there on the market in regards to the clips that you use for clip-ins. This clip right here is actually one that I found on Amazon. If you notice, it has these little latch pieces that you can actually latch over the weft. What I don't like about these clips are they're not as strong in the clip, okay? So you see how easily and how light it sounds? When I started using these, they started out nice. I kind of like them, but then I also noticed I didn't like these little pieces here, so it will require me to use a wire cutter to cut off these little pieces. What I did like about it is that it had the holes on the side, but what I don't like about it is that it has no holes in the top for me to be able to really secure the clip-in on my weft. So these are not clips that I would personally recommend. But if you like them and you find them on Amazon, you can definitely use them. But me personally, they are too light, and I feel like the clip itself would wear out fairly quickly. These clips I also found on Amazon, which I will include the link of where I found these in the actual description box. They snap really well. If you heard that snap, that is a good snap, okay? You want one that's gonna really snap in place and really lock in. It still has that silicone covering so that it doesn't put too much tension on the hair. Also, if you guys see here, it has the holes at the top and on the side so that you can really secure this on either end, okay? And me personally, once again, that snap is exactly what I'm looking for. So these are the supplies that you will definitely need. Last but not least, you will also need a comb. And this comb, of course, will just be used to keep your hair in the direction for you to actually make your clip-ins. Okay, so also one item that I did forget to mention is you will need an actual ruler for you to be able to successfully and quickly make your set of clip-ins. So the typical commercial set of clip-ins comes usually with 9 pieces, a 9-inch piece, a 7-inch piece, a 4-inch piece, a 3-inch piece, and a 1-inch piece. Typically, you have one 9-inch piece, two 7-inch pieces, two 4-inch pieces, 2 3-inch pieces, and 2 1-inch pieces, okay? So what I'm gonna do is, this is my workstation, okay? This is just a piece of poster board that I put on my desk. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my ruler, and on my workboard, because I know that my desk has an edge on it, so I know my desk is straight, I am going to mark my ruler, and I'm gonna start it at 1 all the way to 9, okay? So all I did was draw a line from 1 to 9, okay? So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna mark this as a 9-inch, 7-inch, 4-inch, 3-inch, 1-inch, okay? So that's all I did. That's the only thing I'll need the ruler for. Now, the reason for me doing this is, instead of me using the ruler and trying to measure the weft, I have my line here. This is gonna be my guide. I'm gonna pre-cut my pieces, and then I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to sew on your clips. We are not gonna make the entire set in this video, but I'm actually gonna use the 9-inch because that is the one that has the most clips in it. And then I'm also gonna do a 3-inch because that one and the 1-inch typically would have the least number of clips. So I'm gonna show you the 9-inch, which is the longest, the 1-inch, which is the shortest, and then somewhere in between the 3 and the 4-inch. But I'm gonna show you how you cut your actual wefts now. So we're gonna pre-cut our wefts, okay? So we're gonna put our clips away here. The good thing about the clips is they come in packs of 50 to 100. So one pack of clips will run you no more than about $5 to $8. That should give you enough to say, okay, I can make enough clip-ins for my clients out of that 550 piece or whatever it cost, whatever number of clips you decide to get. I can tell you now, typically price point, which we'll talk about towards the end, the price point of the clip-ins goes by the length of the hair, and we'll talk about that towards the end in regards to pricing. All right, so I'm gonna put those to the side. I have my hair here, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut my weft. Okay. There we go. All right. So depending on the density of the hair that you're using, that will determine if you want to use one track or one single weft per clip-in, or if you want to do a double clip-in. I will show you how to do a double clip-in. Honestly, if you are going to double your weft, I would really say to use a sew-in and sew your weft. A sewing machine and sew your weft. But if you don't have a sewing machine, I will show you how to double your weft with just a needle and thread. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and measure out my 9-inch weft. Okay, you don't want to stretch it too much, so you don't want it to be taut. Okay, you just want it to be relaxed, and you're just gonna measure out that 9-inch. So I have my 9-inch there. I'll go ahead and cut that. Okay, and then if you were going to double it, then you just double that. So I know that this is my 9-inch piece. I'm just going to go ahead and lay that to the side. Now for the 9-inch piece, it's only one piece. So that is typically the piece that I would say to double the weft. That is going to give your client the volume. The 9-inch piece and the 2 7-inch pieces give the volume. Okay, the 4-inch and the 3-inch and the 1-inch are fill-in pieces. So these are the actual volume pieces, okay? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and now I'm gonna make my 7-inch piece. So I'm just gonna fold that in half. So I know that I'm cutting 2 pieces here. So this is a single weft clip-in, but if you want to do double weft, I would definitely say the easiest way to do the double weft is to pre-sew your wefts together on a sewing machine. All right, so this is also the reason why I marked out my lines here on the actual board, because I wanted to be able to make it easy for me to measure out my wefts without me having to use a ruler every single time. Like, you want it to be uniform. You definitely want it to be uniform. Okay, so I'm cutting 2 for my 4-inch pieces because I'm gonna do 2. All right, and then my 3-inch piece. Now, if you're making this custom to your client's head, you do want to make sure that you are measuring where you will actually be placing typically the clip-ins. So temple to temple, then ear to ear. And you usually, whenever you're doing any type of custom measurement, you always want to take off an inch off of your actual measurement. So if from temple to temple, your client's head is an 18-inch, then you are going to in turn make it a 17 or even a 16-inch piece. So I'll show you that in just a second as well. A lot of things that you'll hear me say throughout the entirety of this video is more pro tips. Okay, so these are just tips to help you, but you don't have to use all these tips. It's really up to you. Now, when you do the 1-inch piece, I typically like to go about 1.5 inches because 1-inch piece, if you think about it, your clip might be 1 inch. So if I make a 1-inch piece and my clip is 1 inch, I run the risk of exposing the clip. So that is the reason why I typically would do 1.5 inches or 1.25 inches. Okay, that just gives me a little more wiggle room, and that also gives space so that you don't want your clip to be at the edge of the weft. Like, you don't want it to be directly at the edge. That's how you get a lot of shedding, that kind of thing. So you really don't want it to be at the edge of the weft. Okay, so what I just used to do the standard pieces without being double weft was 1/2 pack. So that should tell you if you are going to double weft, you are going to use an entire pack. This is what is left from a 1/2 pack. Now, I could actually more than likely use another piece, but in this case, I'm not. I'm just showing you from the double weft, and you improvise and make the single weft, and you improvise and make the double weft. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and clear my workstation here. So I got all my pieces cut. The only thing I'm gonna need my scissors for is to cut my thread, right? All right, so let's talk about measurements if you are doing this as a custom size. If your client's measurement from temple to temple equals, let's say it equals 20 inches, your weft should be 2 inches less. So it should equal 18 inches, okay? If your temple to temple, so let's say this is your client's temple measurement, okay? If this is the edge of the head and this is the edge of the head and that measured 20 inches, you want to take off 2 inches. Why? Because you never put a clip in at the edge of the head, right? You want the clip in to blend in somewhere behind the hairline, and you don't want to clip a clip in on the hairline because that is the weakest part of the head. So when you take that 2 inches off, you are now going to be 1 inch behind on each side, and it won't put any tension on the hairline, and it will also save your client a lot of headache because their edges are not having a lot of tension on them from the weft itself or the clip trying to be secured in a very weak area. So keep that in mind. I use this for every measurement. No matter where it's going to be, you always take 1 inch off of each side. That's why I said minus 2 inches from whatever measurement you have. Okay? All right, so we're going to go straight in now. And we're going to do our 9-inch weft. Okay? Our 9-inch weft. Now, the easiest way to do this, you don't want to make your thread too long. So my thread right now is about, well, I'm not even going to try to guess it. Let's see. My thread is about 10 inches long. That can be long, but in the case of what I'm doing, I want to be able to continuously sew my weft. So you want to do a single knot. You want to make sure your knot is nice and small, okay? Nice and small. You want to make sure that you cut off any excess thread. That's very important. When you are doing your actual clip-ins, The goal is that it looks very neat. No one wants to get a clip in that looks like you just made it yesterday and just threw it to them and said, hey, especially if you're charging for these clip-ins. You want to make sure that your work is extremely neat, okay? So this is our 9-inch weft. Now, every time I do a clip-in, I always test the clips before I apply them. Because clips are made by machines, they are not perfect. So some clips will clip more than others. Some will have no silicone bead on the end. You'll never have it perfect. So you want to make sure that the clips that you are about to sew actually clip before you start. Okay, that's very important. Okay, so you always want to check those clips before you actually sew them on. And that's what I do. And I look at the teeth, make sure the teeth are all intact, make sure they're all in the right direction, that kind of thing. If not, mind you, you have a whole pack, so it won't really hurt for you to check them and make sure that they are all in good snap, okay? Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and we are going to put our clips on the weft. This part is very important. What I like to do is lay my weft out, put my clips so I can see placement to make sure that I have enough clips. And you'd want to make sure, rule of thumb, you don't want more than about 2 to 3 inches of space between each clip. So if you're making an 18-inch weft length clip in, then you know at 18-inch you're going to have a clip, at about 16 or 15-inch you're going to have a clip, then at about 12 or 11-inch you're going to have a clip, and then so on and so on and so on. Now, if you don't want that many clips, you can now just put 2 clips here. But me personally, the longer the weft, the more clips you need. Why? Because you don't want that lacking or that lag in the hair. So keep that in mind, okay? So how you sew your clips on, really, really simple. Now, if your needle is really big, like mine's is, which you'll see right here, some needles won't go through the hole all the way. If you see that, okay? If you can tell, the needle won't go through the hole all the way. So you want to make sure that you have a needle that is long enough, skinny enough to go through the hole. The good thing about this particular one is these holes, I can put one here, I can put one here, okay? If I have a double weft, then I can also come down and put another one. So keep that in mind. All right, so we're going to start with placement here. I don't like sewing with the actual teeth open. I like to make mine nice and closed and flat. You want to make sure that your clip is also nice and flush to the weft itself. Okay, that's very important. And then if you notice, I did not put my clip directly at the edge of the piece, okay? Because you have to leave room. Wefts are made with thread and hair, and they end up actually pulling right off. So if you try to base your thread at the end of that weft, it's going to end up just raveling off eventually. So what I like to do is I'll start with my needle, okay? You can also use what they call a weft sealer and seal the edge of your weft, but it will make it a lot harder for you to sew through, okay? So what I'm going to do is from the inside of the weft, okay? This is the outside, this is the inside. How you can tell is typically the fray hairs will be on the inside, okay? And you'll also see the stitch line on the inside. I'm going to start with my needle. Okay, and all I'm doing is just securing the end of my weft. That's it. Okay, so I'm securing the end of my weft. And I'm literally sewing through it and using my needle to create an end on my weft so that it won't shed as much. That's number one. And it'll be a lot stronger when I go to actually apply my clip in. Instead of you just trying to just sew straight through and be done with it. No, you got to take your time, especially if you're charging for these. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and put my clip right next to where I secured my weft. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and sew right through. So you saw me push the needle through, come back. This is why you don't want your needle too long. Okay. And then what I like to do is put my needle through the loop. and seal it in just like that. Okay, so you want to make sure that you seal in your clip. Now, I don't just do one. I like to go back and do it a second time. Okay, and you can double tie if you like, but you want to make it as seamless as possible. Okay, so that's that. Now, every time you sew, you'll notice that your clip will want to go right up to the edge line of the weft. And what I like to do is pull it down so that it doesn't go to that edge line. Okay. And then you will sew through. There we go. You'll sew through the next hole and keep going. Okay. Now, if you are one of those people where you don't like to see the line of the thread on your actual clip-ins and all you want to see is the beginning knot and the ending knot, then you would cut it and do it that way. Or you can tuck, I'm going to show you again. You can take your thread and you can tuck it under the clip, come through. Let me do it again so you can see. So if you want to be able to continue without cutting, okay, you can take your thread, tuck it under the weft, come through the other end like this. Okay, I'm on the bottom end so that my thread isn't just hanging around. And then I'm going to bring it through my other side now and seal it off for this side of the clip-in. Okay, and then I'm going to make sure that I secure it. If you notice, my knot is right at the tip of the weft. Okay, I'm securing it just like that. So my knot is right at the tip, but you don't see any type of embellishments or flaws on this side. You want to make sure this side is nice and seamless, and you want to make sure that your ends are secured. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to sew through it again. This time I'm going to close it off again. And you want to make sure that it's nice and taut, okay? Because remember, this clip is going to be moving left and right every time they put it in and take it out. And then what I also like to do is right at the end, I'll go through a piece of the weft on the inside and I'll use this to tie it off rather than go through the entire weft on the outside. And I'll do a double tie. Make sure that you tie it in good. Okay. So now that is tied in and secure. I'm going to take my scissors. And before I do that, one extra tie. Just like that. And then I'm going to tie a knot again. Okay. But you want your knots to be nice and flat as possible. And then you cut it from there. So now when your client goes to clip their clip-ins in, everything is nice and secure. Okay. You don't see any form of clip on this side. And then on this side, it looks nice and neat. Okay. You don't want it to look all rumple, like you didn't even care when you made these. No, you want it to look as neat as absolutely possible. Okay. So that is how you secure your first clip. So we've done it on one piece. Okay. And then you're going to do another one here and another one here. Okay. So we did one with the traditional needle, which is the traditional sewing needle. Okay. Meaning weaving needle. Let me say that. This time I changed the thread to a white thread. And I'm going to show you using a typical sewing needle so you can see the difference. Now, the good thing about the sewing needle is it is small enough to go through all of these holes and we'll be able to secure the weft even better. The bad part about the traditional sewing needle is that it cannot fit larger threads, but you can go to any craft store like Hobby Lobby or Joann Fabrics or Michaels, and you can get the thicker sewing needle and it will actually hold the nylon or the typical thread for weaving. So you can do that as well. All right, so I pre-strung my needle. It's white, okay? And I am using the traditional sewing needle, and I am going to use this to sew on this particular clip-in, okay? So I'm gonna start by, you always wanna start on the inside, never on the outside. Now this is not gonna look the cutest because I am using white thread, but it is for the purpose of this video that I'm using the white thread. I'm still going to lock my thread in on the first stitch, okay? And you wanna make sure that your ball is on the inside, okay? And then I'm gonna go back and I'm going to do another stitch through the same hole, okay? And I'm gonna lock it in once again. You always wanna make sure that your thread stays as straight as possible. If you cannot get it to stay straight, you just wanna move slightly slower. Okay, as you see it bunching up, you just kind of want to make sure that you're pulling through. And that's the only problem when you're using this type of thread too. It is not made for these purposes, you guys. So you really have to be very careful when you are using these little thin threads. I don't really recommend these threads at all, okay? I really, really don't. Okay, if your thread gets bunched up like it just did, if you go through and just, okay, so now we are going to sew our second clip in on, but instead of me using our traditional thread, I am going to use our traditional sewing needle, which is the one you'd sew clothes with, and I'm going to use a white cheapy thread because I want you to be able to see what I'm actually doing. So this needle is small enough to go through the holes. I don't recommend using this needle to do this, and I don't recommend this thread. For the purpose of this video, I want you to just see how you actually would sew another technique of sewing the clip on the actual weft. This technique will work a lot better to me for longevity than our first technique. Now you can go to your traditional craft store and get the thicker one to this needle that will still fit through the holes, and you can use the nylon thread, which is a black nylon thread, to actually make the clip-in. Keep in mind, if you are making clip-ins and the hair is a different color, I would highly recommend getting the thread to match the color of the hair that you are adding the clip-ins for, okay? All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put my clip right at the base, okay, right at the base of the weft. So if you can see here, it's literally sitting on the under brim of the weft. All right, so I'm gonna come back around with my thread and go back through the same hole again, right through the weft. This time, I'm gonna create a little knot by locking my thread in. I'm not gonna say a knot, I just went through the hole, lock my thread in, okay? And then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna do the same thing again through the same hole. Lock my thread in, okay? So if you notice, you barely see anything. So if this was a black thread or whatever color, they would barely see a knot there. Then I'm gonna come over here to the next hole. You always go in from the inside that, or the side that the clip is on. You never go through the side that they're not gonna see, or the side that's gonna be exposed as the clip in, okay? I'm gonna go through here, okay? And then I'm gonna also create my loop. And you want that line to be nice and straight across. I'm gonna do that again, do the next loop. You can double knot it if you like, or double loop it. It is your choice. Okay, so if you guys can tell, it's nice and straight. On that side, same thing. Come back through, do the next hole. Okay, and then here is where The security definitely matters the most, because at your beginning and at your end of your clip-in is where you want to make sure that that part is nice and secure. So now I'm going to go back through, come back again, same hole. Knot it again, okay? And then on the inside of the weft, I'm going to push my needle through the inside of the weft. I'm not going to the outside of the weft, okay? I'm only here in the inside. Make sure that my thread is there. This is what you call locking in your stitch. Another loop, and this is my final stitch. Okay? Once that's done, cut it off. My clip-in is secure all the way across. Okay? But keep in mind, this is why I said, if you are going to be doing clip-ins, you want to make sure that your clip-in thread is the same color as the weft of whatever hair or color hair you're using. That's also very important. Clip-wise, you can sometimes find the clips in different colors, but I am stern on using these clips, okay? This is my favorite clip. I don't like to change these clips because I know how good they are. But for blending purposes, you want to make sure that your thread is the color of the weft, or as close to the color of the weft in the hair as possible. I hate to see clip-ins done with white thread and the hair is red. That makes no sense, because you're now creating an issue for your client to be able to blend it with their hair. The reason why I use the white is because I wanted you to see how clean and straight and taut my stitches are on my actual clip-in, and this is going to give them a lot more longevity than just stitching the actual two ends. I know this is the faster way because you don't want to have to do all of that, but honestly, this is the most secure, and this is going to keep your client coming back. Okay? So then your last clip is going to be down here. Same thing. Okay? And then you'll put your last clip down there and stitch it on. So I showed you two methods of doing your stitches. Okay? Whichever one is best for you. I will say this one is probably not the best one. It has a gap in it. You don't want any gaps. You want your clip to be secure all the way across. That's another reason why I like the clips that have the holes at the top. I know a lot of people like to go to the beauty supply store and get these clips. These clips only have a hole on each side, and they prevent you from being able to stitch across the top. I do not recommend these clips. I, once again, do not recommend these clips. Okay? Now, let's talk double stitching, or if you're doubling your weft and you don't have a sewing machine, okay? I am going to just show you on one of these tracks here really quickly. You want to make sure that if you are going to double your weft, that you don't double them like this. That is incorrect. You do not lay one on top of the other. That is going to give them a bulky, very, very bulky clip-in. You want to position your weft where it is like a step, one under the other, like this, okay? You want your wefts to be nice and flat and flush, and then you will attach your clip-in after the fact. So I'm gonna go ahead and string up my needle again, and then I'm gonna show you guys how to sew these two tracks together. Okay, so now we are going to double our weft. If you had a sewing machine, you would lay the wefts of the tracks exactly the same way, and you do what we call a zigzag stitch, and it will double the wefts very, very quickly and very easily. But if you don't have a sewing machine, I'm gonna show you how to quickly just sew them together. So you'll start at the bottom weft, okay? And you're only gonna do this on the inside of the actual wefts, okay? You don't wanna go through the entire weft. This particular process takes a lot longer when you have to hand stitch. But if you don't have a choice or you don't know how to use a sewing machine, you just have to do what you have to do. So I am literally going through the inside of the top weft, okay? That's the one that they're gonna see. They're not gonna see this one on the bottom, but the top weft is the one that you wanna make sure that you are not going through the entire weft where it will be seen on the outside. You don't want excess thread everywhere. Okay, just like that. Same thing here. And like I said, this part is really time consuming, you guys. So if you can definitely fine tune your skills on a sewing machine to get this part done, you will be so much happier and in such a happy place. And then I, of course, just broke my thread, but I wanted you guys just to kind of see the placement of the tracks. That is the most important piece. Okay, so I'll come a little closer. I'm going under this piece of the weft on the top, and then I'm going through the actual weft on the bottom. So they are like bricks. They're layered like bricks. That's how you want to lay your tracks, okay? That's the most important piece. You just don't want them to be one on top of the other. That is going to give you a very bulky weft. And then I'm also making sure that my tracks are not stacking on each other like that. So I'm laying them just like this, okay? So it's like a brick, one on top of the other, or like a staircase. And then you'll just continue this all the way across. Now I want you guys to see the back side in just a second once I do this last stitch here of what I mean when I say you don't want to be able to see your stitching. So on this side of the track, you do not see that I doubled my weft. On this side, you definitely can see that I doubled my weft, but it is still nice and flat and smooth. And then when you go to attach your clip-in, you now are going to attach your clip-in to the bottom weft, not the top, okay? If you attempt to attach your clip-in at the top, you want to make sure that that clip-in weft is almost tilted over the clip so that it will create a flush clip-in, okay? So I'll show you what I mean. Just like this. So you're going to literally make sure that that top, whoa. Of course I sick myself. That top weft so that when the piece of the weft is going over, it's going literally over the clip-in. So you don't feel that there's more than one weft there, okay? So I'm going to show you just a little bit closer like that. So you see how it only looks like one weft? You want to make sure that it looks that way all the way across. Okay? So that is how you double your weft, and that is also how you attach your clip-in to a double weft. As I said, and I can't say it many more times, I highly recommend getting a sewing machine and getting your weft doubled before. You can double the entire pack all at once. It'll take you maybe 5 minutes to double the entire pack, and then you'll be able to just seamlessly make your clip-ins, cut them, whatever the case may be, and you're good to go. Let's talk packaging of clip-ins. I always recommend getting a pack of hair nets. This was on Amazon for like $4. Once you are done making your clip-ins and it is time to present them, you want to make sure that you nicely place your clip-ins in a hair net. Okay, that's very important. Presentation is everything. If you notice, when I placed my clip-in in my hair net, it gave me a nice little curl, okay? You want that curl to stay so that when your client gets their clip in, it looks all pretty and stuff. And then if you were gonna put it in a box, which I'm just gonna use this box that's not really the box for it at all. But then you're gonna go ahead, lay it nicely in a box, or you can put a little bit of tissue paper at the bottom of your box, lay your set of clip-ins in there, and you want to lay your clip-ins from large to small so that it will look like a level of stairs. And then when they open it, they're going to see the clip-ins nice and full, but when they look on the backside, your clip-ins are layered like stairs, okay? The hairnet makes a heck of a difference, and it keeps the hair nice and intact. Put it in your box, put your business card in there, whatever the case may be, fold it with your tissue paper, cover it up really, really nicely, and send it out. Don't just throw it in a bag. Here you go. Have a great day. That is not how you handle something that someone is going to be paying you for, okay? Now, on for the name of the clips. I went and got the package for you guys. On Amazon, it's called Girl Show 100 piece 6 teeth lac, okay? It's also, so you can take a screenshot of this as well, so you can blow this picture up, okay? And I'll turn it this way as well. I know it's backwards, but you should be able to read from that point. 100 piece black, 37 mm. Okay, yes, it's made in China. Don't really care about that.